I'm on national TV doing an interview with CNBC or Fox or MSNBC, whatever it may be, they always ask me, well, what are you guys drinking in the water out there in Nebraska that you're in so much better shape than the rest of the country? And I always remind them, well, first of all, we have a lot more common sense out here in Nebraska. You all know what I'm talking about there. But secondly, you know, we really do believe in the fundamental financial concept that Washington, D.C. has kind of forgotten about. We don't spend money we don't have. And you think about it. We don't do it in our family budgets, we don't do it in business, we don't do it in government, and it keeps you in a lot better shape financially, and we've been willing to make the tough decisions. Now, since I've been governor, we've tried to continue to focus on what I think are two of the most important issues every day: education and jobs. If we can give our young people, our sons and daughters, our grandkids, a good education, the very best education we can give them, we do a great job in the state, and then we create jobs here in Nebraska, we'll continue to move forward. And a statistic that not many people realize, 2 of the last 3 years, Nebraska's population growth has exceeded the national average. Think about that. Because we've all been worried with brain drain and all the rest. Well, we've been able to reverse that. We've got a lot of work to do. It takes a lot of help every single year on all of our parts. But the fact of the matter is, we are seeing positive population growth. And again, it starts in Nebraska. We have good public and private schools with good higher education system. If you look at our high schools, Nebraska has the 4th best high school graduation rate in America at 87.6%. Speaker Adams, until he became speaker when he was chair of the Education Committee, served on a P16 committee. And one of our goals is to get the statewide graduation rate in the state for every school, but statewide at 90%. If we can do that, we're not very far away, we'd be the first state in America to achieve that. And I'm very, very proud of, generally speaking, where we've been. Now, take a look economically what we've been talking about. And I've heard Tony talk about what's going on here in York, and I see it all across the state. I look back 7 years ago, one of the first years I was governor. We modernized our economic incentive programs for the first time since the 1980s, called the Nebraska Advantage. And look what's happened, how communities, businesses have taken advantage of that. In the last 6 years now, 400 companies, slightly more than 400 companies in our state decided to expand or locate right here in Nebraska. They're going to invest nearly $10 billion in our economy and create 25,000 new jobs. And that gives you an idea in terms of where we're headed and what we're doing. In 2007, we passed the largest tax relief package in the history of the state to become more tax competitive. Every year that I've been governor, we balanced our budget by controlling spending, not by raising taxes. And that takes a determined commitment, and we've been willing to make the tough decisions. And when it comes to spending, we've invested in our money in those 2 priorities I talked about, education and jobs. And if we remember that, I think we'll continue to move forward. We've also made some fairly significant investments in a couple of areas that I want to mention. Innovation Campus in Lincoln, a public-private partnership, and where that's going to take our state, the university, and the business opportunities relative to the University of Nebraska. The Buffett Cancer Center at the University of Nebraska Medical Center is a world-class cancer research center. We moved the state fair to a new state-of-the-art facility in Grand Island. We've opened trade offices for the first time in the history of this state in Tokyo and Shanghai. And that's been very, very important as we increase exports all over the world. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but we compete in a global economy today. And agriculture understands that better than almost any other industry in our state. This past year, legislatively, we eliminated Nebraska's alternative minimum tax so that middle-class families can keep more of the money they earn. We've helped small businesses by expanding the net operating loss provisions from 5 years to 20 years. And that's really important for startup small businesses, because many times you don't make money until that 5th or 6th year. We doubled the income tax deduction for the Nebraska College Savings Plan, which has been one of the best college savings plans in America, and it's very, very critical relative to helping families save money for college education, which has gotten more expensive all the time. I also want to share with you a little bit another issue, talk about state and federal, and that has to do with health care. At the state level, we went out and visited private sector companies all across the state about 5 years ago as we talked about what should we be doing at the state relative to wellness, to our health insurance plan, and we designed a very innovative wellness program. It's built around our insurance plan, and as a result, last year, Nebraska became the first and only state in America to receive the C. Everett Koop National Health Award for the health improvements that we've made and the cost savings. And everybody who's part of this program at the state level, we're all involved in this culture of wellness. You can choose what program you want to be in. Most of us are in the walking program, and you know, you got to lead by example. I've got my pedometer already over 5,000 here by lunchtime, and I'm averaging about 13,000 to 14,000 steps a day. It does make a difference. You're healthier, you feel better, and I'll share with you what's happening with state employees. The last 3 years, our health care claims costs are down by $4 million. Fewer doctor visits, fewer hospital visits, fewer prescription drugs. And the end bottom line there is, since we as taxpayers pay 79% of the health insurance costs for our employees, that means we're saving taxpayer money. Now, that's a little bit different story when we talk about what's going on at the federal level. We had the debate a few years ago about the President's new federal health care law. That is going into effect, and it's going to have the financial impact in Nebraska is going to be enormous. Let me share a couple things with you. It's going to cost the state, in terms of federal and state funds, over $170 million over the next 8 years just to implement the technology and the administration associated with that new federal health care law. Even more significant, over the next 6 years, it'll cost the state of Nebraska $225 million in state general funds regarding the growth in the current Medicaid program. That's what this federal health care law is going to do to us. And then you've heard a lot of talk about, well, we ought to go expand Medicaid. And the advocates for that, and I'm not one of them, will say, you know, hey, look, it's free federal money. Free federal money. Now, if you believe that, I've got some land in the Pacific Ocean I'd like to sell you. That's your tax dollars and our tax dollars. And the fact of the matter is, we only have 3 major items in our budget: state aid and education, University of Nebraska and higher education, and Medicaid. So if you expand Medicaid, those costs go up dramatically. Eventually, you're going to reduce state aid to York public schools, to our public schools across the state of Nebraska, and higher education. And again, the advocates will tell you, well, after the first 3 years of that 100% free federal money, they're going to pay 90%. Yeah, it's the 10% I'm worried about. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. And the federal government, 20, 25 years ago, when maybe longer than that, they started special education, said they pay that at 40%. And they pay at 18 or 19%. So most of us don't have a lot of confidence in the fact they'll come through with their fair share. And then you look at where we stand with this health care law right now. Everybody's nervous about the enrollment, the opening of open enrollment on October 1st, and then the full implementation on January 1st. And you just heard recently the President said they're going to delay the employer mandate by a year. I can tell you how much trouble they're in. We're trying to get answers from our Medicaid division, Department of Insurance. How are we going to integrate all this technology with the IRS, with the Health and Human Services, with our Medicaid division, Department of Insurance, and we can't get answers yet. So we're very, very nervous in terms of where that's headed. On the other hand, again, I want to come back to what we're doing really well in Nebraska, and that is the economy. And it's because of the leadership of you and citizens all across this state that we believe and that we want to grow this state. We want to keep our kids here. We want our grandkids to move back if they moved away. And all the work we've done, look at where we're at today. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in America. CNBC just came out with the ranking of business-friendly states. Nebraska, for the first time ever, we're in the top 5, we're number 4. On their program about 10 days ago, had the opportunity to promote Nebraska in terms of what we're doing. Our farm economy is very strong. We'll have our ups and downs, but generally speaking, if you think about the next 20 or 25 years, we've got to feed 2 billion more people in the world. 90% of that's going to be over in Asia and Africa. We're going to be exporting more Nebraska corn, soybeans, wheat, beef, pork, you name it, to these countries. We've got a strong insurance industry. Our technology sector is expanding. At the end of the day, think about where Nebraska's at. We basically have good jobs, good schools, safe communities that sometimes we take for granted, affordable homes, and an unmatched quality of life. And that's why I'm so proud of our state. And, you know, I grew up in a number of small towns, graduated from Walled High School, not all that different from York, and I'm sure it's true of York. When you grow up in a small town in Nebraska, if you do something wrong during the day, before you get home at night, your parents already know about it. Now, when we were a kid, we didn't always appreciate that. Unlike the speaker, I knew I was going to be governor, so I never did anything wrong when I was a youngster. I just want you to know that. If you talk to my mom, she might tell you something different. But that really demonstrates how much we care about each other, how much we support each other, how much we love each other. We're there every day for each other. Now, the only challenge that, or the major challenge I think we have going forward, and I get to hear this every day, for all the progress we've made, most people in the state will still remind me that taxes are too high. Property taxes are too high, income taxes are too high, occupation taxes are too high, and we're going to have a good discussion about that. We've got a tax modernization committee out there. The legislature is going to take a look into that. But this is a discussion you're only going to do about once every 50 years because you want a stable tax climate. It's a tough discussion, but we do need to look at the fact that our tax code was developed in the 1960s for a 1960s economy. Today we compete in a global economy, not so much a regional and national economy. It's hard to believe for the young people here, but if you go back to the 1960s, we didn't even have personal computers in our home. Think about that. We now live in an electronic age. So we need to take a look at that. We need your help. We need your input. Because this was not easy. How do you transition to a tax code that reflects today's economy? Because anybody has a certain tax break, I understand they don't want to give that up. But that's the one issue that I think we're going to spend a lot of time on. I'm sure the speaker's going to love that discussion next year, trying to get all 49 of them working in the right direction. But I do believe, and I'm optimistic, that as a result of the discussion we're going to have, we'll be able to find a plan that could include some property tax relief. But that's primarily a local function. I've served in local governments. That's decided by city councils, county boards, and school boards. Income tax relief, and then I hope we take a look at Social Security income tax relief, where we might begin to exempt some portion of Social Security income. We're only one of 7 states that doesn't do that.